Hey everyone, and welcome back to Newegg TV. My name is Paul, and today we have a special guest here in the Newegg TV studios. This is Milos. How's it going, Milos?
Going good. How are you, Paul? Good to see you again.
Good to see you too. I'm doing fantastic. Milos is editor-at-large for Geek Magazine, and if you guys have been watching our channel recently, you might have seen sort of the first, 90% of a build. And so we invited Milos to come back here because we wanted to see how the build turned out. So in case you guys hadn't noticed, it's right here to my left. And what are your first impressions of this build? What sort of experience was it for you?
Well, Paul, as you remember last time we saw each other, we were very busy putting the build together.
Yes, indeed.
It's 100% ready now, and the first impressions are really good.
Yeah.
I'm very impressed with everything that went into the system. The quality of all the parts is absolutely phenomenal. Asus and Corsair on the peripherals, on the case and the motherboard, so on and so forth, as well as the custom water cooling solutions from EK Water Block.
Yes.
So
we have sort of a combination of parts here. Some are parts that you guys have probably seen before. Some are very custom because there's a really high-end water cooling loop in here. Now, from Geek Magazine's perspective, when you guys were sort of theorizing about this build, kind of getting the parts list together, and you had the idea, if I'm understanding correctly, was to sort of take a high-end system, throw in a really high-end water cooling loop, and then just sort of see what type of performance you could get out of it. Would that be accurate? Very true,
very true. What we wanted to do at a Geek Magazine is we wanted to do a coverage of a gamer system, almost ultimate gamer system, I should say, and we chose Asus for the motherboard, Asus 5 formula.
Okay.
We chose Asus GTX 680 dual GPUs running in SLI.
Okay.
For the graphical, engine and the horsepower that they provide, if you will. And then we also chose Corsair for their world-renowned reliability in power supplies, as well as the RAM. I should mention the RAM is Corsair's Dominator Platinum, running at an incredible 2666 megahertz.
Very, very fast RAM in there.
Very fast RAM, as well as really, really fast SSDs from Corsair.
Couple Neutron GTX SSDs, I believe.
Correct, and in BIOS set up in RAID 0.
Excellent. So that's sort of a quick rundown of the parts. If you guys can obviously see, it's all been assembled over here. Apart from the EK open custom water cooling loop we have in there. Again, that's a Maximus 5 formula motherboard from Asus at the back, 3770K CPU, which currently Milos is overclocked to 4.6 gigahertz.
Correct.
We're going to go into the BIOS here in a second just to show you guys the configurations. Core AX 1200i 1200 watt power supply, the 3770K, and the two GTX 680s GPUs by NVIDIA. The cards themselves are Asus DirectCU 2 models, so we actually removed the very excellent DirectCU 2 coolers, but we've replaced it with the EK water blocks on there. So also some excellent performance. You've been doing some testing. Have the video cards been performing well as well?
Yes, the video cards are OC'd out of the factory. I should mention this is a Asus GTX 680 overclocked edition.
Okay.
Phenomenal, as you know, in this particular line of Kepler CPUs. Asus does extended testing and benchmarking, assuring that you arrive with the best silicone possible, which is overclocked out of the factory by Asus. So fantastic GPUs.
So you already know you're getting really high-end GPUs if you go with those specially picked ones from Asus, and then adding the liquid cooling on top of that means you can, of course, push it even further. And I want to give our folks at home a bit of a demonstration of the system. Before we jump into that, we did want to say that Geek Magazine is going to be doing a full spread on this particular build, as well as all of Milos's results from that. So if folks are interested in reading Geek Magazine, you can check that out. The website for Geek Magazine?
GeekExchange.com.
GeekExchange.com.
And in print, Geek issue for October-November will feature a full build. Basically, we'll show you how to do this at home, if you will. With all the installation photos and coverage and things that we ran into that you should keep an eye out for, and the best way to go about putting a system like this yourself.
All right, so October, November issue of Geek Magazine for that. Let's go ahead and jump into the current settings that we're using. Milos has done some overclocking here within the BIOS, and then we're also going to do a couple demonstrations to sort of show the performance of the system.
True. In the BIOS, as you know, this is the ROG motherboard by Asus, so it has a very sort of geared BIOS towards overclocking and gaming.
Okay.
All the features you would want for doing something like this, Asus has already thought about and worked into the BIOS. But without going into too much detail, because we could probably do a whole show just on BIOS.
We could.
There's a standard, BCLK clock locked into 100. We did the 46 multiplier, which gave us the 4.6. Again, coming down into the memory frequency, as I said, this is an exceptional Corsair. I should say 16 gig kit.
Okay, 4x4 gig.
For the 4x4. Now, the important thing to point out is there's a lot of manufacturers that produce RAM that will overclock well. I think important thing to stress out in this build is the achievement of four modules running at 2666. As you know, it would be much easier to get two running at that speed, but this is all four slots on the motherboard populated with RAM and running at 2666. So really credit to Corsair on these chips, because I think this is best of the best RAM.
Definitely is, and the fact that you can just plug it in 2666, and since it's a quad memory kit or 4x4 sticks, typically those will be specially set up so that when you install them in a 4 DIMM arrangement, that they're going to be able to handle that a bit better with some of the presets.
Exactly.
Settings that are in there.
As you can see, extreme tweaking is on. The Asus ROG BIOS and the motherboard itself, the Maximus 5 formula, comes ready for this kind of system. So we really didn't have to do a lot outside of setting up the BCLK clock and the multiplier, and again dialing in some of the RAM. Extreme tweaking, I believe, was already enabled by default.
Okay.
And then we went into the DRAM and just keyed in the timings that Corsair recommends. From there, really just went into the Digi Plus power control. Again, incredible power regulation and digital VRM by Asus. Just changed a couple of things here. Went to load line calibration, ultra high. As you can see, this is not even the highest setting in BIOS. I mean, this could be pushed further with the extreme.
Still jump to extreme.
Still jump to extreme. So it's kind of 75% there, pushing the motherboard 75%. And then again, just CPU fixed frequency regulation has been adjusted to 350, as well as the power phase in extreme mode, concluding with everything else going down the line on auto, just as is shipped from Asus.
Okay.
From there, again, just another couple of settings that we did here was CPU voltage for the desired 4.6 overclock. We're running at 1.335, which our load line calibration will adjust as needed. And going into the, again, just another one manual change, the PLL voltage to 1.7, which is not necessarily needed, but the opinion of the overclocking society out there is that particularly setting 1.7 could help with the temperatures down the road.
Okay, so help keep the temperatures down a little bit, maybe a little bit better long-term stability.
True.
Okay.
And then from here, another thing I would just like to point out is, again, done in BIOS, would be the SATA configuration, which has been changed from the regular standard one into RAID, and the Corsair SSDs are now running in RAID 0.
Excellent.
From here, everything else pretty much stock as it came, preset. So very quick, very thoroughly you know, engineered BIOS by ASUS, and definitely the best choice if you're trying to get a system like this put together. From here, we can boot.
So with all that plugged in, we're going to go ahead and boot up the system. From here, we wanted to give you guys a little bit of a taste of the real world numbers, so to speak. Particularly, we wanted to check out the CPU, of course, since the CPU and both graphics card are currently being covered by the liquid cooling solution that's in there from EK. We're going to test the CPU. We're just going to use Prime 95 to put a heavy load on that and sort of see what the temperatures get up to. Maybe we're going to run some Unigen. We have the new Valley benchmark to show with the graphics cards. That's a synthetic benchmark, but it's very taxing on graphics cards, so it's a great tool to plug in, especially if you set up a new system, kind of see what temperatures you're getting on the graphics cards. Also see what kind of performance the cards themselves can push, and 2680s and SLI should be able to handle those without any difficulty at all, I should say. So from here, we'll of course log in. We're using Windows 8 right now, and there we have the OS. So let's just go ahead and jump over and what are we going to use for temperature monitoring?
For temperature monitoring, we're going to use a couple of things. We're going to start off with Real Temp 3.7. Very good temperature monitoring utility. It'll also show us the load as well as the working frequency. What I like to do along Real Temp is I like to run Core Temp. This is particularly beneficial for the VID, which is a voltage set by Intel to get requested at a certain clock, yet not necessarily corresponding to what's needed for the particular stability. As you know, we're taking these CPUs far above and beyond what they originally shipped with. And then along that, I also run a Republic of Gamers edition of CPU-Z.
Which has the nice red and black
just the nice red and black theme. As you can see, the theme follows through into the PC build. So ROG was a big inspiration for everything we've done. And then, of course, to take the CPU to a 100% load mark, we'll be using Prime 95.
Okay.
Let me just give you a quick sort of rundown of what we're employing by EKW to achieve this this cooling.
That's one thing we haven't gone over yet.
EK Water Block, a sort of revolutionary company when it comes to custom water cooling, has engineered in-house a complete solution for a number of motherboards, CPUs, graphic cards, as you know. In this case, we're running their EK Supremacy Water Block.
Okay.
And we're running their GTX 680 covers for Asus cards. It's important.
These are actually specifically designed for these DirectCU2 cards.
Specifically for those cards. So everything matches. As you can see in our detailed build in the Geek Magazine, the installation process will show that every groove and every sort of fit is perfect for all the components that Asus has put on the card.
And it's not necessarily just the GPU you need to cool, you also have power delivery components, you got memory on there, everything needs to have some sort of either contact with the cooler itself or a way that it can actually disperse the heat, since you are removing that stock or the custom cooler that Asus has designed for it. True.
As you know, Kepler architecture from NVIDIA has a very advanced memory as well as VRMs. The power has to be delivered to the cards, and solution like this from EK Water Blocks enables us to both overclock the Kepler core and the RAM, the GPU DDR5 RAM, which is found on these cards. Moving along is the the sort of cooling mechanism, the radiators, what actually takes away the heat. We're running a triple XTX from on the top from EK Water Blocks.
That's a 360
yes.
millimeter, 3x120.
That's right, with 3 fans mounted on top for a pull configuration.
Okay.
Little difference there for pull versus push. You know, pull has shown a little better numbers, and there's a single radiator on the back, all tied into the same loop.
Over here. So
again, we should also note that ASUS Maximus 5 formula comes with an excellent VRM cooling solution.
Yes, it does.
But we removed it because we wanted to complete the build and just kind of go with a sort of integrated looks of the EK. So
you can see the VRM cooler, which runs in sort of an L shape there along the back. And another really cool feature of these EK blocks is that they're actually transparent. So there's red solution that you've included in there, also from EK.
Correct.
And where it comes through these blocks, you can actually see the coolant too, which gives it a really cool look.
Correct. We're also using a reservoir from EK and a water pump with a custom top. I should say that the custom top from EK for this particular pump, and they have one available for every pump, increases the performance of the pump, and it sort of ties it in really nicely. It allows you to sort of shorten the length of the loop by not having to run a tube between a reservoir and a pump.
It's got the res right on top, the pump right at the bottom. It also gives you the benefit of following that cardinal rule of liquid cooling, which is never let your pump run dry.
Yes.
With the reservoir directly on top, really, unless you're just turning it on without putting any liquid in, which you should never do in the first place.
Very true.
It's really impossible to accidentally run the pump dry. So
very true. This setup helps that a lot. Even if you forget, or if you're not, if you're running around and trying to do too many things at the same time. I'm a big fan of putting the reservoir on top of the pump in a sort of unified solution. And as well, EK tubing,
okay,
1/2 inch all around with EK fittings all around. I should say this particular build only required 2 angled fittings, and everything else is a straight fitting.
Nice.
Putting together all the components.
Yeah, all of those are EK compression fittings, which are connecting all the tubes to the fittings themselves. And another thing about when it comes to a liquid-cooled system like this, it adds a fair amount of complexity to the build process itself. Definitely took a bit of time to get everything set up in there, but once you get it all together like this, not only do you get the benefit of doing some massive overclocking that just would not be possible on air or even the little closed-loop CPU coolers that are available these days, but you also get a very quiet running system, and one that just, especially, get the side window on here. You're still planning on adding some additional lights in here as well?
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, a build like this is never finished.
Yeah,
it's a continuous.
Touches
absolutely, definitely for the look and feel. Next stage for us would be trying to work on some lights and lighting it from behind.
Okay.
As you know, Maximus 5 formula comes already with a couple of accent lit LEDs on the motherboard, but we definitely want to do more just to kind of have that reservoir and some of the tubing pop even more.
Yeah, I want to kind of highlight the work that's been done.
True.
All right, so there's another rundown of the liquid cooling system that's currently installed here, and why don't we go ahead and should we fire up Prime 95?
Yeah, we set everything up here for Prime 95. As you can see, real temp, core temp, and CPU running together, and we're going to do a quick Prime 95 just to see what happens with the temperatures when Prime 95 sends the CPU to 100% load.
Okay, and at idle we're hitting upper 20s, low 30s, under load right now since Prime 95 just started up. And pardon my beep, I'm going to go ahead and check our ambient temperature, which right now is about 22.7 Celsius. And right here we can see our CPU temperature. So this is under full load with Prime 95.
Full load, real time confirms a 100% load, as well as running at 4.6. We see that the vid requested is 1.311.
Okay.
But CPU-Z tells us that what's needed for stability is 1.344 being delivered.
Okay, and that's a voltage which is towards the high end of what we might recommend folks who are overclocking at 3770K might go with. But again, since we got the liquid cooling here, you're able to achieve a stable
only
overclock.
under a custom water cooling loop should you be trying to push for these type of voltages and that kind of stuff. But as you can see, the thermal maximum for 3770K is 105 Celsius. We're at 64, and we have a T-max difference of 64 degrees, 62 in certain cores until we hit that thermal shutdown.
Nice.
So I think EK Water Blocks has, you know, helped us out tremendously with cooling the system and being able to do this overclocking and stress testing.
It has, and as the test runs for a little while, we're hitting maybe mid to upper 60s max, which with this overclock and this kind of load, which is really a type of load that you never legitimately put on a computer outside of doing testing.
There's no game, there's no application out there that could even bring you to, like, I would say 80 or 75% of this type of load.
And yeah, so 70, 72 max, and
70 max after maybe, you know, some very strong and long testing, depending on your ambient. Probably get into the top 70s, but high 70s, but that would definitely take hours and hours to get there.
And still well within range from the maximum temperature that these CPUs can hit. So there's some excellent results there for the CPU portion of the liquid-cooled system that we have in here. Why don't we jump in and test out the graphics cards?
True, next. Let's do that. We're going to stop Prime 95. We're going to stop, and we can quit out of the CPU monitoring utilities. I'd like to bring up a GPU overclocking utility next, because it would just be fair if we overclock the CPU that we do the same to the GPU. So we're gonna do the same to our GTX 680s in SLI.
All right.
And we're gonna add 80 megahertz to the core.
Okay.
And we'll add 500 to the RAM.
So a big jump there on the RAM. That gets your effective memory clock to about over 7,000.
Yes.
Which is really physically about the maximum that GDDR5 can even hit. So we're really right up against the wall there. But again, thanks to the liquid cooling solution that we have, we're still going to be well within range.
Yes.
And then of course the GPU, which after we take into account the GPU boost function of the GTX 680s from NVIDIA, we're expecting to see just shy of 1,300.
Correct. We should also note that these cards are the overclocking edition from Asus.
Yes.
So as you know, there's many flavors of GTX 680 for maximum performance and frames per second in your gaming. That would be the top recommendation. Not only would you want to look for the GTX 680 edition, but you'd want to make sure that it's the DC2OC.
So it does help to go with the custom design cards from manufacturers such as Asus, because they do sort out their GPUs as they come through. Not every GK104 GPU is going to perform exactly the same, so they will do what's called binning. They'll separate those out. They'll take the highest performing chips and they'll attach them to their custom design cards so that those cards can achieve higher overclocks.
Very true, and that's what we relied on Asus for. Make sure that the cards could, even with an excellent overclocks from the factory, could go a little further.
All right. So next up, we're going to be trying out Unigine Valley. This is version 1.0. This is we've been using Unigine Heaven for quite some time. That's up to version 4.0 now. Unigine Valley is another it's
newer one. Yes.
It's a synthetic test. It uses the Unigine graphics engine. And it renders a very beautiful. I kind of like just to watch the Unigine Valley.
Peaceful, yes.
It's
very
got this
true.
nice music. The rain will come at times, and the flowers bloom. Okay.
Interesting that you mentioned rain. Rain is excellent because what it does, it tests the physics engine.
Okay, so that's a physics engine test involved with the rain. We also have lots of shadows, anti-aliasing going on. Very far draw distance as well. It's taking into account. We can see some of the numbers here for the graphics cards up here, as well as on the top left from the Afterburner utility that's running. So both of these GPUs right now are running at 1295 megahertz. The memory is at 3504, or effectively 7008 megahertz, which is right about the same range as the GTX 770 hits right now, which is also based on the same GPU. So fantastic overclock with these cards, and yeah,
and temperatures are impressive. What really impressed me about the EK water cooling custom solution is the CPU temperatures and results is somewhat what I've expected, whether it was through research or just personal experience. But the the SLI GTX 680 temperatures and what EK Water Blocks has managed to do to them is really something that surprised me once it was all up and running.
Nice.
As you can see, the test has now been running for a while. The GPU usage here can be seen. It's running close to 97%.
Okay.
And the temperatures have not went anywhere over 43, 44.
Like low 40s.
Low 40s.
I mean, some graphics cards idle in the low 40s.
Yes.
Like,
no, these ones run full load.
Yeah, so this is under full load. It's barely getting even to the point where you would think that it's running a high-end synthetic graphics test on them.
True.
So that's, again, a testament to the liquid cooling solution and the type of temperatures you can get with your graphics cards when you're going with a solution like we have set up here from EK. So
very true.
Excellent performance there. And yeah, so this test has been running for a little bit. Let's see, apart from the overclock, temperatures, memory, speed, I think that's about a good example for the GPUs.
Sure.
Now we have some other components in this build as well that we wanted to talk about a little bit. You might be hearing a bit of the Unigine Valley music. That's because we have the Corsair Vengeance 1500 headset, which is plugged in right here. Those aren't speakers. Those are headphones that you're
But they come in handy as portable speakers too.
This is very nice. You just turn it up like that and you can still hear it. We also have the M65 mouse over here as well as the K70 keyboard. Also from Corsair. So Corsair was kind enough to provide a nice set of peripherals to go along with this system, and everything, of course, matches.
It completes the build, and I think in a gaming environment, it gives you that much more advantage. If you were someone who wants definitely the best experience, and if you're gaming for hours at a time, Corsair would be not only the company to look at for core PC components, but also their accessories and peripheral division and engineering has been incredible in you know, innovative solutions for our specific Geek Magazine gaming audience, so on and so forth.
Definitely. They have a very full-fledged line of peripherals now as well. Now, apart from this, we have a couple more components in here we wanted to give a quick rundown of. These also happen to be Corsair components. We're talking more specifically about the memory, the Dominator Platinum memory we have in here, which is, again, a 4x4 gig 2666 kit. And then we also have an excellent storage solution. There are no mechanical hard drives in this system right now. Of course, those could be easily added if you wanted some mass storage, but right now we're mostly talking about speed. So we have two Corsair Neutron GTX SSDs. Those are 240 gig SSDs. Milos set them up in RAID 0. That's using the Z77 chipset, which is integrated onto the motherboard that has a native controller for SATA Rev 3, 6 gigabits per second. Pairing those together, especially using the native chipset, gives you some fantastic performance, particularly when you're talking about high-end SSDs or some of the highest-end SSDs in the Neutron GTX. And then you get practically double the performance when you RAID SSDs together.
Correct.
And you also get about 480 gigs of storage.
Yes.
Also is handy.
So we'll show a quick test.
So this is the IDA 64 disk benchmark. This is going to run through some sequential, and I believe it does sequential as well as random read and write tests. We're talking about 128K block sizes right now. It's currently running through buffered read tests. We'll give this just a moment to run, and then we'll let you guys know what the performance was. So test has finished. Again, this is the IDA 64 disk benchmark. We can see linear reads, beginning, middle, and end, a random read test, a buffered read test, and average read access time. And the linear tests right here really tell the story. A gigabyte per second. So basically you're taking your single Neutron GTX performance, which is probably for sequentials going to be in the 500 to 550 megabytes per second range. Pair the two of them together and you get roughly double the performance. So a gigabyte per second read and write. Also here we can see the read access time, 0.08 milliseconds, and that's like the story of the SSD. When you switch from a mechanical drive to an SSD and you do something on a computer, that instantaneous response, which is really, you get used to so quickly, and then you go to a mechanical drive and you feel like you're living in the dark ages or something. But yeah, so some excellent performance there from the RAID 0 configuration.
Yeah, and we can also show a RAM test.
Okay.
Again, just pointing out, this is 16 gigs, all 4 slots populated, which, as you know, in the overclocking is not very easy to achieve. Running 2 is easier, 4 takes a lot of effort. So Corsair has really done a great job binning or handpicking these chips for Dominator Platinums.
As your RAM density goes up and as the number of modules you're actually using goes up, the ability to overclock them goes down. But we're still able to hit the 2666 thanks to the memory from Corsair, as well as, of course, the integrated memory controller in the 3770K. So this is running some memory tests. This is actually going to test the memory as well as the L1, L2, and L3 cache of the CPU. We're primarily interested in the memory tests results up here, but again, pretty huge numbers. We got 32 gigabytes per second for memory read, 24 gigabytes per second for the writes. The copy gave us 26 gigabytes per second and a latency of 38.2 nanoseconds. So if you guys are interested in comparing this, check out memory tests with the IDA64 cache and memory benchmark. You can sort of give yourself some comparison to see what these numbers actually mean. If you don't look at these numbers very often, they might not make a whole lot of sense. And then we got L1, L2, and L3 cache, which is just absurd because CPUs have really, really fast cache. But it's actually a test that I haven't run very much before, but apparently the L1 cache in the 3770K can do about close to 600 gigabytes per second. Not too shabby.
Yes. There's not a lot of it, but he can go very,
really
but
fast,
it's really fast. True.
Nice.
So that rounds up our benchmarking and testing. You know, of course, as a true enthusiast, this never ends. You'll probably tweak the system further and run another test to see if you manage to improve something and go from there.
All right, so once again, we've just shown a few quick benchmarks here to give you guys an idea of how the system is performing. If you'd like to see the full slew of benchmarks, testing, performance results, of course, check out Geek Magazine. The October-November issue is when this particular system is going to be showcased, as well as the build process, so it's going to be a bit of a how-to guide as well. Yes,
absolutely. We'll show the steps of the build. As you remember in your previous episode of Newegg TV, you helped out tremendously, and I don't think it'd be possible without you.
Thank you very much. I was glad to be here.
Yeah, very glad to have you there and work, and you know, this accomplishment is also yours as much as mine and everybody else's. So I'd like to sort of use this opportunity to thank everyone involved. Thank Newegg, Corsair, Asus, and of course EK Waterblocks and Intel. Again, if you'd like to see more and detail sort of information, we encourage you to take a look at the October-November issue of Geek Magazine and learn how to make a system like this yourself at home.
And head over to geekexchange.com if you guys want to see more of Geek Magazine, because there's lots of other stuff there besides just this system. It's a magazine, and they have lots of coverage on the same type of stuff that you might be watching Newegg TV for. So
very true.
Milos, thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Paul. It was a pleasure. I hope we do another build very soon.
We should definitely set this up.
But this is just the beginning.
Just the beginning. If you guys want to see another build, give us some ideas. We'd like to see your comments. Post a comment down in the section below on this YouTube video. Show us your ideas, what types of builds you want to see, whether you want to see more over-the-top water cooling stuff like this. If you want to see even more, we could do maybe like a three-way solution.
Absolutely.
Like that. There's tons of options and tons of opportunities.
And as you know, new architectures are always coming out. There's always evolution in this world, so it keeps it interesting, keeps it going. And Geek Magazine likes to stay on top of what's cool right now.
All right, so check out Geek Magazine. Of course, stay tuned to Newegg TV for more videos just like this one. Thank you so much for watching, everyone, and we will see you next time.